very unique, and also like for me very just something very special, because today I'm going to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia to be part of the Borderless Africa initiative that will be held in the African Union headquarters in Addis. And it's so powerful for me also to see, like, just because of the things we do with Home-Based Africa as well, we can be part of this initiative, like supporting the African continent to become, let's say, more, like, fuel the growth of the continent, like bring people more together. What's anyways the part of our mission as well, to bring more of the diaspora as well back to invest home and like to build something sustainable. But I also made in the past a couple of videos I was talking about the different trade agreements the continent has here in place, like the East African Community. Like you have different, the EACFTA, like the Continental Free Trade Area, so that just the continent can work better together without all these different hustles this is going through now. Like, just imagine how difficult it is to send goods from one country to another country, or just to travel from one country to another country for Africans because of all these different visa restrictions, or for then also the expensive flights you have here. So like there's so many different levers that makes it so difficult to just interact with each other, to do business with each other, to visit each other countries, to exchange like culturally as well. So like there's so many different differences and difficulties that are in place, that I think is such an important initiative now, where we are also taking part with Home-Based Africa. Actually also will happen from tomorrow, from the 15th, what actually also was the day when the borders of the continent got drawn back then in Berlin. I think it's was in 1885 or something like that, also on 15th of November. So this makes it even more powerful to be part of such an initiative, that now we can also have an impact in this, So therefore, there's also, in case you're interested, there's a link in the description as well. Sign the petition, and this will basically help just to push this agenda of like a borderless Africa, to make trade, to make travel, to make investments easier for all Africans. And trying to force this into policy, basically. Like once there are enough votes, there are enough people signed in the petition, the less the leaders can also overlook this. So it's quite important, I would say. So therefore, I just want to share with you today that I'm going to Addis now. I prepared everything. I prepared my bags. I'm just going now to Addis, and from tomorrow on, I try to share some of the insights I've learned, also meeting different policymakers, meeting people with a lot of influence in these areas. And I'm happy to share what I've been seeing, what I've been learning, what could make a difference as well, and also to be part of it, to be part of this change, basically. There's sometimes, like, what I used to learn is like what I thought rather, is that it's so difficult for one person to have an impact. But now the more I learn and the more people I observe, the more stories I watch from people who actually have a big influence and change something in this world, it always starts with this one person. So like I think the more of us just be part of a big change, and like invest our time and energy into building businesses or something that also has an impact like that we can go now as Home-Based Africa to an event like this, meet these people that make decisions, meet other influential people here on the continent, from the continent, that are also pushing this kind of agenda, just to make it easier in general. I think we all can have a huge impact as a collective in the long run, I would say. So yeah, I mean, just imagine how this continent could look like, how much easier it would be to travel, for example. Like I remember just one example, when I traveled the first time, or even last year, from Nairobi to Zanzibar, I think just the price for the flight was crazy, like it's 450, 500 US dollars. It used to be, at least. Now when I flew this year, because there's a new airline that opened up a new flight route, it was almost half the price. I paid 240 USD for back and forth. Such a small change will already impact, how people travel. You see an influx in Kenyan travelers to Zanzibar. I saw recently as well that Rwanda now has a direct flight as well to Zanzibar as well. So it's also part of this needed change, as I said, because otherwise it just makes more sense, you know, from Kenya. I think it's even cheaper sometimes for me to go from here to Germany, where I used to grow up, and come back here, than going to Uganda, you know. And Uganda is a 1 hour flight. Recently, my grandmother was also in Eritrea, you know. She called me from there and asked me if I maybe have some time to come over. But the flights were also ridiculous, you know. They were first very expensive for like a 2 or 3 hour flight. It was like over $1,000 at least. And then they took me also, would have taken me 10, 15 hours to go there, you know. So they would have sent me to Qatar or to Egypt, I think, and then made me come back to Eritrea. So like I basically make a senseless trip for no reason, you know. And I think all of these things, they are like, the more we also invest into our own countries here, the more time we spend like developing this, and like I said, especially I think through investment and through the businesses we have, and we can cross borders with this, we can also be part of the change and have an impact in this. So yeah, let me keep you guys updated how this goes this time, how this event goes. Yeah, just some behind the scenes things from this event from Borderless Africa in the African Union. It's quite interesting for me to, yeah, I said, be there, share what I see, and also push with my own thoughts also for the youth, you know. Like I see there's so much youth. I'm also part of this generation, you know. I'm also just 26, and I think if anyone can make this have an impact in this, it's also the younger generation, you know. I see they're so powerful in Kenya. I know many of them. I went to Uganda and Tanzania, and they all have this desire to have an impact, to have a change, to be part of a change. And therefore I think it's quite nice also to go as a young person, even if I'm from the diaspora. I just came back a couple of years back here to Kenya. And this even if I'm from Eritrea, because yeah, there's difficult to do business and everything, but just being back here on the continent, I think it's nice to share also the perspectives we have and what kind of impact we also could have all together with just a couple of changes in terms of policy, you know. I have a couple of friends also, there's a story, a friend of mine told me the story recently. It's like a friend of hers is from Senegal but lives in Germany, but because of his passport, he tried to enter Zanzibar, I think for 2 or 3 years, but he never got the visa actually, you know. And his wife, who is from Poland but also grew up in Germany, has a German passport, could enter there, could buy land there, but he never got in there, even if this money they invested in Zanzibar was his money as well. So they always denied, and that in the end of the day they had to go through lawyers, have to pay a lot of money just for him to enter the country. I think it's very ridiculous, you know. There are many other stories like that I heard, and I know, I can imagine also you guys, or like, you know, people that face the same issues, or like have faced the same issue yourself, you know. Like just when I see how these policies work, you know. And it's crazy also when I see like the US embassy is here in Nairobi as well. When I pass it, you see like lines of people waiting there just to get in, to get their visa approved and everything. But when they come here, or like when we come here, me as well, I'm not different with the German passport. I can just come and I will get entry either way, you know. So it's for me ridiculous that it works that way. And therefore, yeah, let's see what we can do, you know. Like I said, every single person, even no matter how small the efforts are or how big they are, we all can have an impact. We all can be part of this change, even if it's in small amounts. It still adds up, it accumulates, and we can also, yeah, just change something, you know. Like I said, and if we all do this, you know, like, we can really have an impact, I think, in the next couple of years, no matter how difficult it is. So therefore, that's, I would say, most of it already. Like I just want to pour my thoughts at you, because I'm just about to go and leave to the airport to go to Ethiopia now. And as I said, in case you really support the same kind of vision, the link to the petition is in the description. You can just click there, you can sign it, and we can slowly have an impact, have an impact on the change that's about to come, hopefully for the continent, to make life easier, to support one another, to invest in one another's countries, to travel to other countries, to exchange culture between our countries. And therefore, if you're really curious about this, or like you have the same vision of this borderless Africa, then just go to the description. There's a petition. You can sign it. It's free, so just sign it, and the votes will be counted, I think, on the second day, so I think on Saturday. So therefore, let's see how many we get together, and I keep you guys posted. I appreciate you, and let's have an impact together, moja kwa moja, step by step, and let's do our best. Yeah. So cheers. I appreciate you, and see you in the next live call, live stream.